So nice you're all here, and I'm going to start the evening by telling you the story from ancient Iraq of the poor man of Nippur. In the city of Nippur lived a poor man named Gimel Ninurta. He had no gold, no beer, no bread, and only one shirt. He was not happy. Then he had an idea. I will take my shirt to the market and exchange it for a big, fat ram. I will kill the ram and invite my friends to a feast in my house. Then I will be happy. Gimel Ninurta took his one and only shirt to the market. He tried to exchange it for a big fat ram, but all he got for it was a skinny old nanny goat. Back in his house, he was about to kill the goat when he remembered that he had no beer and no bread for a feast. I will never be happy, sighed Gimel Ninurta. Then he had another idea. I will give my goat to the mayor of Nippur. Then he will invite me to a feast in his house, and I will be happy. Gimel Ninurta took his goat to the mayor's house. Who are you? Asked the doorkeeper. I am Gimel Ninurta, a citizen of Nippur. Wait here, said the doorkeeper. Who is it? Asked the mayor. It's a citizen of Nippur, said the doorkeeper. A citizen of Nippur, said the mayor. Ha! He spoke contemptuously. He was an arrogant man. He has a goat, said the doorkeeper. Oh, he has a goat, said the mayor. Show him in. Gimel Ninurta went into the mayor's house and gave him his goat. The mayor gave the goat to his servants. Kill this goat for a feast, he said, and this man will be a guest at my feast. Oh, thank you, said Gimel Ninurta. You're welcome, said the mayor. And then the mayor spoke secretly to his servants. At the feast, he said, give this man a bone to eat, with a little bit of gristle on it. Give him the worst beer to drink, and then show him out, throw him out. And that's exactly what happened. At the mayor's feast, Gimel Ninurta was given a bone to eat, with a little bit of gristle on it. He was given the worst beer to drink, and then he was shown out. He was thrown out. On his way out of the mayor's house, Gimel Ninurta spoke to the doorkeeper. Your master has tricked me, he said. Now I will trick him. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Tell him that from me. When the mayor heard from his doorkeeper what Gimel Ninurta had said, he laughed. Gimel Ninurta went to the king's palace. He asked the king to give him, just for one day, a nobleman's shirt, some gold, and a splendid chariot. The king granted Gimel Ninurta his wish. Gimel Ninurta put on the nobleman's shirt, picked up the gold, stepped into the chariot, and drove around the city of Nippur until he came to the market. In the market, he bought with his gold a beautiful box and 2 birds. He put these 2 birds inside the beautiful box and drove to the mayor's house. When the mayor saw a man in a nobleman's shirt driving towards his house, in a splendid chariot. He went out to welcome him. "My lord," he said, "you are welcome. Please come into my house." Now the mayor didn't realise that the man in the nobleman's shirt was Enheduanna. Enheduanna spoke to the mayor. "I have this beautiful box with me, and inside it is the king's gold. It's a gift for Enlil, the great Dingir of Nippur. Will this gold be safe in your house?" "Of course," said the mayor. "Bring it in. Please, be a guest at my feast." Enheduanna was a guest at the mayor's feast with a beautiful box in full view. He ate the best meat, drank the best beer, and he kept the mayor talking until he fell asleep. When the mayor was asleep, Enheduanna lifted the lid of the beautiful box, and the two birds inside it flew out with squawks which awoke the mayor. "Ah! Ah! What's happening?" cried the mayor. "Look," said Enheduanna. "The box is empty. The gold has gone. You told me the gold would be safe in your house, but now the gold is gone and I am undone." Pretending to panic, Enheduanna ripped his nobleman's shirt to shreds. Then he knocked down the mayor and beat him from head to toe until he was black and blue all over, covered in bruises. "Don't kill me," cried the mayor. "I am protected by Enlil, the great Dingir of Nippur. You must not have my blood on your hands. And you," said Enheduanna, "you must replace the king's gold, which was a gift to Enlil, the great Dingir of Nippur. It was the king's gold, so you must replace it not once, but twice over." "Of course," said the mayor. "And you, sir, must accept from me not one but 2 new noblemen's shirts." And that's what happened. On his way out of the mayor's house, Enheduanna spoke to the doorkeeper. "Your master," he said, "has tricked me. Now I will trick him. And I have tricked him. I've tricked him once, and I'm going to trick him 3 times. Tell him that from me." This was the first of 3 tricks. When the mayor heard from his doorkeeper what Enheduanna had said, this time he was silent and glum, because his body was aching all over with bruises. Enheduanna went from the mayor's house to the barber shop, and he had his hair shaved in the style of a doctor from the city of Isin. He picked up a clay pot, filled it with water, and went to the mayor's house. Now the doorkeeper didn't realise that this was Enheduanna in disguise. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am a doctor from the city of Isin, and I can cure bruises." Come in, said the doorkeeper. "You can cure bruises?" said the mayor. "Yes, I can cure bruises," said Enheduanna, "but only in a room far away from your servants." "Follow me," said the mayor. He led Enheduanna to a room far away from his servants. And this room, it had a hard earth floor, and the only light in it came from a little fire. "Lie down," said Enheduanna. "Lie down if you want my cure for your bruises." Well, the mayor lay down on the hard earth floor. Enheduanna hammered 5 pegs into the hard earth floor, and he tied to these pegs the mayor's head and his 2 hands and his 2 feet. And then he threw the water from the clay pot onto the little fire, and the room was suddenly in total darkness. Enheduanna beat the mayor from head to toe until he was covered in bruises. And then he smiled. And on his way out of the mayor's house, he said to the doorkeeper, "Your master tricked me. Now I've tricked him, not once but twice, and there is a third trick to come. Tell him that from me." Now when the mayor heard from his doorkeeper what Gimel-Ninurta had said, he was very nervous, and so was Gimel-Ninurta. Gimel-Ninurta went now to the market, and he looked around at the faces of the men in the crowd until he found someone he trusted. He showed this man one of the 2 new nobleman's shirts that he'd got. And he said to the man, "If I give you this, will you do something for me?" "Do what?" said the man. "Stand outside the mayor's house, shout, 'I am the man with the goat,' and run away." "Sure," said the man. They went together to the mayor's house, and Gimel-Ninurta hid under a nearby bridge with his ears pricked up like an alert dog. The man from the market stood outside the mayor's house. He shouted, "I am the man with the goat." Then he ran away. All the mayor's servants came out of the house and chased the man who was running away. The mayor came out and stood at his door alone. Gimel-Ninurta jumped up from under the bridge. He knocked the mayor down, beat him from head to toe till he was black and blue all over, covered with even more bruises. "You tricked me," he said. "Now I have tricked you, not once, not twice, but 3 times." Gimel-Ninurta went for a walk in the countryside. He was now a happy man. But that's not the end of the story, because the mayor of Nippur went for a walk in the city, and he was now a humble man, because he had been tricked not once, not twice, but 3 times by a poor citizen of Nippur named Gimel-Ninurta.
Before all befores, time was yet to be. But Namur, mother, she the origin, primal matter, waters of the living being, she existed. Before all befores, time was yet to begin. Namur, she flowed, she twisted, she rolled and swirled and curled like a double helix. And Namur, she loved herself. For the first time, she loved herself, and her joy was embodied. And her flowing waters opened, and she gave birth to the first of creation, Kayan. Kai, the mountains, and An, the sky. And together, they nestled in her watery embrace, holding each other, calm. But Kai was stony and barren, and Anne was deep, dark emptiness. And so Namur wrapped her arms around them, and her living waters flowed around, under and over and between and through them. And something stirred within. A sigh. A soft wind. A breath. The first breath, and Enlil, the infant Lord Heir, was born, and he nestled in the lap of Kai and Anne. And they were so overjoyed at what they had created that Anne covered himself in a cloak of deep azure. And Kai, she gathered the precious minerals of lapis and chalcedony, and she shone brightly for Anne. And together they embraced twice, 20, 30, 50 times. And their embraces sowed the seed for trees, for reeds, and for pastures. And the more they embraced, the greater their love, and the world grew rich. And honey and wine sweet flowed. And Namur looked and felt and saw, and she knew her offspring was spreading and growing, and she needed to create space. And so she arched her great body, her flowing waters high above Anne, the sky, and deep below Ki, the earth, and all the way around Enlil to create the depths of water of life-giving. And things flourished, but not Enlil. The first named god, Enlil, did not grow and flourish, for he was held still in the embrace of Kai and Anne, and could not grow. He could not meet his destiny until a movement, a thought, a determination, and that whisper, that sigh, became a great wind, and with a roar and a bang, he broke free and shattered the embrace of Kai and Anne and sent them their separate ways. And he parted through the waters of Mother until he was free, dancing spirit wind. Now Namur looked at her offspring, and she proclaimed their fate. Anne, she said, Anne, you are the upper world. You will stay there, and I will give you the thread of the light of imagination, of dreaming, of vision, and you will protect all that is below. And my beloved daughter Ki, she said, you will stay my mantle. You will caress me, and you will be form. You will be sturdiness. You will be the life-giving earth and matter and form. And you, Enlil, she said as Enlil danced, you will be the spirit that flows through all. But Enlil was a little taken back by what he had done, and he saw Anne looking down longingly at Kai below, and no matter how far they reached towards the horizon, they could never touch again. And he felt so alone, and he cried and requested and said to his mother, Mother, please don't leave me, not to be alone. Stay with me, and I will protect you, and my wind, my spirit, will go with you wherever you go, and together we will create. Together we will form the universe. And so it was. Enlil and Kai together, and up above, Anne's heart broke. His great azure tears fell for what he had lost, his joy, his love, his own creation he could no longer touch. And as the great azure tears dropped, they mingled with mother waters, the waters of life. And she embraced them and felt the tenderness and care. And with the mingling of waters, there was created a new two, a boy, a girl, the first new creations. It was Enki and Ereskagil. And so Namur named her creations, and she said, "You shall have the wisdom of all that is high above An, and all that is deep below my flowing waters. You shall have all that knowledge. And now you shall go out on the quest to look for the everlasting beauty for all that see and believe."
Marduk, he was the head god over all the other gods. But it wasn't always like that. No, long ago, at the beginning of time, then all the gods were equal. They consulted with each other, they had decisions and they agreed on things. But Tiamat, the god, well, she hated all the other gods. And wherever she went, there was trouble, there was turmoil, there was dissent. Well, one of the gods was more thoughtful than the other. He thought more, he thought deeper, and his name was Ea. And Ea looked at all the other gods and he thought, there's none of those that can match Tiamat for power. And he thought again. And finally he decided that Marduk was the one that could challenge Tiamat. And so he approached Marduk and he said, "Will you fight Tiamat?" And Marduk said, "Well, I could get killed. I might get injured. I might get captured. I'll have to think about it." And he went off and thought about it. And he came back and he said to Marduk, "Yes, I will fight Tiamat." Said Ea, "But there's conditions." Conditions? And what are your conditions? Well, first of all, I want to be head god over all the other gods forever. Right. And also, all the other gods must agree to this. Oh, right, said Ea. I'll think about it. And he went off and he thought, it's a good job he was good at deep thinking, and he went off and it came to him. He would have a feast. So he arranged a feast and all the gods were invited. And oh, what a feast it was. They had acrobats, they had dancers, they had sword swallowers, and the food, fruit and sweet butter cakes, and they had wonderful things. But more important, they had date wine, the absolute favourite drink of the gods. And it wasn't just a cup of wine. Oh no. It wasn't just a flagon of wine. It wasn't even a barrel of wine. It was a fountain of wine. There were rivulets running through that feast, and all the gods were drunken and drinking. And at the end of that feast, they all said what a good idea it was that Marduk should be in charge, and yes, that Tiamat deserved everything she got. Well, so Marduk, with everything agreed, got on his battle armour. He had his bows and his arrows and his thunder club and his storm net and his lightning dagger. And he went to battle. And oh, what a battle it was. So fierce you wouldn't believe it. It wasn't for hours, it wasn't for days, it was for weeks. Forward and backwards. Tiamat, she was powerful. She unleashed all her creatures on him. Oh, there were beasts, there were dragons, there were many-headed snakes, and he hacked away and killed them all. And then after that, there were demons with fangs, giving out venom and gases and, terrible. Fought away there they did. But at the end of it, at 1 minute, 1 second, suddenly there was Tiamat. It parted, and he took his chance. He took his storm net and he threw it over her. Well, she opened her mouth, and you wouldn't know this, but she had a terrible weapon, and that was her scream. When she screamed, every living thing within hearing distance died. And she, and quick as a flash, he took his sword and thrust it down her throat and killed her. And then he took out his sword and he chopped her in half. And he took the one half, and he put it up in the heavens, and he set it around with little lights. We call them stars. And he took a moon to forever shine on those stars, and half of Tiamat. And the other half he put down to be earth beneath our feet. And Murdoch, well, he got what he wanted, and he was king and head over the gods forever.
In the beginning, in the very beginning, the heavens were given to the sky god An, and Enlil, the air god, took over the earth, and Eresh Kigal became queen of the underworld. But Inanna, the beautiful goddess of love and of warfare, Inanna did not receive any part of the universe. Now Enki, the god of wisdom and fresh water, was aware, of course, that all this was happening. And he decided that he wanted to visit the underworld to see Eresh Kigal. He was always interested in what the other gods were doing, particularly the female ones. But Eresh Kigal did not want Enki to visit her. She sent the 4 winds to stop him. The north wind and the south wind, the east wind and the west wind. They attacked his ship, and they hailed the windstones on it, and the huge hailstones upon the ship, and the waters of the sea rose up and overwhelmed his ship, and Enki couldn't complete his voyage. But he saw one of the winds, the south wind, go down the river Euphrates, fresh water river, where on the banks there was a single tree, a hulupu tree, standing, nourished by the fresh water of the Euphrates. And the south wind, the whirling south wind, went down, uprooted the tree, and sent it down the river. Inanna happened to be walking on the bank of the Euphrates, and she saw this tree floating down, and she plucked it out of the water and took it to her holy garden in the city of Uruk, where she planted it and tended it with her own hands and stamped the ground around it down with her own feet, and she spoke to the hulupu tree. She said, "Hulupu tree, I want something, and I will have from you a shining throne and a shining bed. But how long will I have to wait?" She waited 5 years, and the tree grew, the trunk grew thicker, and the branches grew out. She waited 10 years, and the trunk was thicker still, and there were more and more branches, and she thought, now is the time I can get my shining bed and my throne from the hulupu tree. But in the roots of the hulupu tree, a serpent had nested, the sort of serpent that cannot be charmed. And in the crown of the tree, there was a nest of the anzu bird who was bringing up his young at the crown of the hulupu tree. And in the trunk, in the middle of the tree, there was a kisikililake, a night demon who had made her home there. And Inanna couldn't get to the wood to make her throne or her bed, and she wept. Oh, how she wept. But the creatures who were there wouldn't leave it. In the morning, when the birds started singing their dawn chorus, Utu, the sun god, woke up and emerged from his royal chamber. Now, Utu was a brother of Inanna, and she thought she would go to him for help. She said, Inanna, in the beginning, when the sky god took the heavens, and the air god took the earth, and Ereshkigal took the underworld, I was given nothing. Enki wanted to go to the underworld, but Ereshkigal sent the winds to stop him. And one of the winds blew down the freshwater river, the Euphrates, where there was a hulupu tree standing on the bank, but the wind uprooted the tree and sent it down the river. Now, I was walking by the river, and I saw the tree, and I plucked it out and took it to my holy garden in the city of Uruk. There I planted it and tended it for 10 years, thinking that I could get something from this tree, that I could get a shining throne and a shining bed. But when the tree was ready to provide this for me, there was a serpent who could not be charmed in the roots. There was an anzu bird in the crown. Kisikililake had made her home in the trunk. And I could not get to the tree, and I wept. Oh, how I wept. Utu heard her story, but he had no pity for his sister. He would not help. Another day passed, another night passed. Then, in the morning, there was the dawn chorus again. And this time, Gilgamesh, the mighty warrior Gilgamesh, woke up. And Inanna went to him and told him her story. And he was ready to help her. He put on his heavy war armor. He took up his bronze axe, and he entered the holy garden of Inanna, and there he struck the serpent who had made its nest in the roots of the tree. And when Gilgamesh struck the serpent, the anzu bird flew away. The Kisikililake left her home in the trunk. The tree was ready to provide its wood. Gilgamesh himself carved a shining bed and a shining throne for Inanna. And she in return used the roots of the hulupu tree to make a puku, a war drum, and the crown of the tree to make a miku, a drumstick. She gave them to Gilgamesh. He was delighted. He started playing his drum. He played it all round Uruk. And the young men came out to follow him. The young men of Uruk all were invited by the drum, and they followed Gilgamesh. They followed him a long way through forests, through fields, into battle. Many of them were killed. Many of them were taken captive. Gilgamesh came back still with his drum and his drumstick. And he went to all the places in Uruk where he played the drum before. And the women came out, and they were weeping for their lost husbands and for their lost sons. Oh, how they wept. Gilgamesh took his drum, put it on the ground, and a hole opened up, a huge hole, sucked the drum down. Gilgamesh tried to reach it. He reached down with his hand as far as he could. He reached down with his foot as far as he could, but he could not reach the drum. The drum had gone all the way down to the underworld. Gilgamesh could no longer have it. He wept. Oh, how Gilgamesh wept. But Inanna, the goddess of warfare, on her throne, the goddess of love on her shining bed, she did not weep anymore.
We've got another Enheduanna story now. Inanna, the goddess Inanna, queen of heaven, lifted the shugura, the many-layered crown, placed it on her head, and walked out into her city of Uruk. She went to one of Uruk's many fertile orchards and leant her back against an apple tree. And then she looked down at herself and smiled. She liked what she saw, and it gave her an idea. I think I might just go and see Father Enki. I don't think I'll leave disappointed. Enki, or Ea, was the god of wisdom, the god of the sweet waters, and keeper of the holy May, keeper of the sacred wisdom of the gods that say how things are and how they have to be. And he lived in Eridu. Well, he actually lived beneath Eridu in this belly of sweet water called the Apsu, under the earth. And Inanna, she set her feet towards Eridu to see Enki. Now, Enki was the god of wisdom, and there in his Apsu, he knew that Inanna was on her way almost before she knew herself, and he knew what was on her mind. So he called, Izimud, Izimud, my Sukkal, my right-hand man. In an instant, Izimud was there at his side. My king, how can I serve you? Izimud, there's a beautiful young woman on her way here. Enki had an eye for a pretty girl. When she arrives, I want you to welcome her as my equal. I want you to make her feel at home, so relaxed, as if she was coming to a sleepover with her best friend. So when she arrived, Izimud gave her a bowl of cool water to refresh herself. He fed her sweet butter cake and then led her to where Enki was waiting by the great stone statue of a lion, which was his shrine. And there, Inanna and Enki, well, they drank beer together and gossiped. And then they drank some more beer together. And they drank more and more beer together out of the great overflowing vessels of Mother Earth herself. And when they'd been drinking for a while, Enki said, Inanna, you've come all the way from Uruk to see me. And you're sitting here drinking beer with me. You will not go home empty-handed. I will offer you, with the power of my shrine, I will offer you the holy May of the priest and the priestess, and the holy May of the noble and enduring crown of kingship. And Inanna said, I accept. And they drank a toast. 14 times Enki offered Inanna the different holy May. He offered her love-making and the kindling of strife. He offered her shepherding and the forge of the smith. He offered her the beating of the holy drum and the drumming of the dancing feet. He offered her rejoicing and lamentation. He offered her judgment and decision. He offered her admiration for the hero and respect for the elders. And 14 times Inanna said, I accept. And they drank another toast. When Enki had offered Inanna all the sacred May, he suddenly felt his eyelids were getting a bit heavy. And he said, you haven't got to rush off anywhere quickly, have you? And Inanna smiled and said, that's right, you rest. And for just one moment, the god of wisdom let his heavy eyelids close. But in that moment, Inanna scooped up the holy May, put them in the boat of heaven, and set sail for Uruk. The moment passed. Enki opened his eyes again, shook his muzzy head, and looked around. Izimud, where is Inanna? My king, she has set sail for Uruk. And Enki looked more closely. He said, well, where are the sacred May of the priest and the priestess? My king has given them to his daughter Inanna. Enki looked even more closely. He said, well, what about the May of lovemaking and lamentation and the smith? My king has given all the holy May to his daughter Inanna. Enki was sober. He said, where is Inanna now? She has just sailed out of the harbour. Go after her. Go after her and take some of Tiamat's monsters with you. Tell her she has safe passage to Uruk, but the holy May and the boat of heaven must return to Eridu. Izimud went. He said to Inanna, my queen, Father Enki sends a message that must not be disobeyed. What message does my father Enki send that must not be disobeyed? He says that you have safe passage to Uruk, but the holy May and the boat of heaven must return to Eridu. My father said that. He would break his word, break his promise, break the oath he made on his own shrine. But even as Inanna protested, Tiamat's creatures had a hold of the boat of heaven and started to haul it back towards Eridu. So Inanna called out, Ninshaba, my Sukal, my right-hand woman, you whose hand has never touched this water, whose foot has never touched this water, come and save the boat of heaven and the holy May. And Ninshaba cleaved through the air and drove the creatures back towards Eridu. And Inanna sailed on. 6 times Enki sent Izimud after Inanna, and 6 times Ninshaba drove the demons back towards Eridu. And Inanna sailed on until she came within sight of her great city of Uruk. And then she said, let the streets be filled with water, so I can sail into the centre of my city, and let the people come and see what I have brought them. Let the priests make the sacrifices ready. May the holy tavern open its tap. Back in the Apsu, for a 7th time, Enki said, Izimud, where is Inanna now? My king, she has just sailed into the centre of Uruk. And Enki, he put back his head and laughed. I am so full of admiration for my daughter Inanna. Let the people come and sing her praises for what she has brought them. And Inanna showed the holy May to her people, and they marvelled. They said, oh, you brought us the May of lovemaking and the kindling of strife, and the priest and the priestess, and the noble and enduring crown of kingship, and my sculpture is going all over the place. And they marvelled. And Enki said, let the May stay with Inanna in her shrine. Let the priests sing over them every day. From now on, Eridu and Uruk are allies. And this is the start of the great flowering and flourishing of Uruk.
I'm going to tell you the story of the man who lost mortality even before Gilgamesh, the epic of Adapa. أحداث الأسطورة تدور في مدينة أريدو. هذه الأسطورة التي عثر عليها في مكتبة الملك أشوربانيبال في نسختها الأكادية. الأسطورة عثر عليها مكتوبة ب120 سطرا. أحداث الأسطورة تدور في مدينة أريدو التي تقع على نهر الفرات الطاهر عند مصبه الجنوبي. بطل الأسطورة أريدو، بطل الأسطورة الذي عاش في مدينة أريدو أدبا الذي أرسى مبادئ التحضر الإنساني. نبدأ الأسطورة كما كل الأساطير. كل الأساطير حكايات مقدسة. وكان أدب الأريدي ابن الإله أيا الذي علمه كل علوم الحياة. الحكمة أعطاه فصار أمره كأمر الإله أيا. أتم له سعة الفهم ليكشف نظم البلاد. حكيما كان، حكيما فائق الذكاء ومتواضعا. كان يعد الخبز مع خبازي أريدو. بيديه الطاهرتين يعد المائدة المقدسة. يؤمن الطعام والماء لأهل مدينته. ولو كانت الكهرباء في ذلك الوقت لوفرها لشعبه. أداب الأريدي منحه الإله أيا كل شيء، لكنه لم يعطه الخلود. جعل الإله أيا من أدب نموذجا للبشر. كان يخرج كل يوم ليصطاد السمك لأهل أريدو،
وحدث ذات يوم وبينما هو يصطاد السمك في عرض البحر، وإذا بريح الجنوب تهب عاصفة قوية، فانقلب قارب أدب. ضاع السمك، فرفع رأسه أدب وصاح: سأكسر لك جناحك يا ريح الجنوب. وما أن نطق بهذه الكلمات حتى تعطلت ريح الجنوب من الهبوب والعمل. 7 أيام وريح الجنوب متوقفة عن العمل. إله السماء أنو سأل: لماذا لم تهب ريح الجنوب ل7 أيام؟ ريح الجنوب معطلة. فقال له وزيره: إن أدب ابن الإله أيا كسر جناح ريح الجنوب. الإله آنو قام عن كرسيه وصاح ليأتوا به إليه. الإله أيا العارف بكل مجريات الأمور، العارف بمجريات الأمور في السماء والأرض، أمسك بأدبا وقال له: اطلق شعرك والبس ثياب الحداد، ستسلك طريق السماء، ستكون في حضرة الإله آنو. عند البوابة سيقابلك إلهان، تموز وجيزيدا، سيسألانك: على ما تبدو على هذه الهيئة؟ ومن أجل من ترتدي ثياب الحداد؟ قل لهما: لقد غاب عن الأرض إلهان ولهذا أبدو على هذه الهيئة. سيسألان: من هما؟ قل لهما: تموز وجيزيدا. سيبتسمان وسيكونان إلى جانبك في حضرة الإله أنو. سيقدم لك طعام الموت، لا تقربه. سيقدم لك شراب الموت، لا تقربه. سوف يعطونك عباءة البسها، سوف يعطونك زيتا ادهن به جسمك. هذه الوصايا يا أدب احفظها ونفذها. وما أن انتهى الإله أيا من وصاياه لأدب حتى وصل رسول الإله آنو إلي بأدب الذي كسر جناح ريح الجنوب. سلك أدب الذي أطلق شعره ولبس ثياب الحداد، سلك طريق السماء. عند بوابة الإله آنو كان إلهان عند الباب، سألاه: على ما تبدو على هذه الهيئة؟ ومن أجل من ترتدي ثياب الحداد؟ فقال أدب: لقد غاب عن الأرض إلهان ولهذا أبدو على هذه الهيئة. سألاه: من هما هذان الإلهان؟ قال: تموز وجيزيدا. ابتسم تموز وابتسم جيزيدا، تعاطفا معه وأخذاه إلى الإله آنو. الإله آنو قال له: قل لي يا أدب، لماذا كسرت جناح ريح الجنوب؟ فقال له: يا سيدي، كنت أصطاد السمك في عرض البحر، وكان البحر هادئا كالمرآة، وإذا بريح الجنوب تهب عاصفة قوية حارة، انقلب قاربي وفقدت صيدي. وفي لحظة غضب قلت: سأكسر لك جناحك يا ريح الجنوب. الإله آنو استغرب كثيرا وقال: كيف يمنحه الإله أيا كل هذه القدرة؟ لقد أعطاه كل شيء، كيف يعطي إنسانا غير مقدس مكنونات السماء والأرض؟ والآن ماذا سنفعل به؟ أعطوه طعام الخلود لكن أدب لم يقربه. أعطوه شراب الخلود لكن أدب رفض أن يشرب. أعطوه عباءة لبسها وأعطوه زيتا مسح جسمه به. الإله آنو ضحك، قال له: كم تعساء أنتم أيها البشر، لماذا لم تأكل طعام الخلود ولماذا لم تشرب شراب الخلود؟ ألا تريد أن تكون إلها تعيش إلى الأبد؟ أدب قال له: لقد أمرني سيدي ألا أأكل ولا أشرب مع الآلهة. فما كان من الإله آنو إلا أن يقول: خذوه إلى الأرض، أنزلوه إلى الأرض. نزل أدب إلى الأرض ونزلت معه كل بذور الأمراض والأوبئة، لكن الآلهة عطفت عليه، أرسلت وراءه إلهة الشفاء لتخفف من شرر الأمراض والأوبئة. الإله آنو منح أدب الكهنوت حتى نهاية الأيام، وصارت مدينة أريدو من المدن المميزة. أدب لم يعطه الإله أي الخلود، لكن ذكره بينكم خلود آخر. شكرا لكم.
Behold, the tablet box of copper. Release the clasps of bronze. Take out the tablets of lapis lazuli and hear the tale of Gilgamesh. All that he endured.
ملحمة جلجامش هي ملحمة سومرية مكتوبة بخط مسماري على 12 لوحا طينيا، كتبت قبل أكثر من 3000 سنة. كان جلجامش ملك أوروك، والدته آلهة خالدة ووالده بشرا فانيا. ويسبب الجزء الفاني منه يبدأ بإدراك الحقيقة أنه لن يكون خالدا. كان جلجامش قاسي، شخصيته قوية، وكان يدفع كبار السن إلى العمل حتى الموت ببناء أسوار المدينة، ويدفع الشباب إلى حروبه الطاحنة والمستمرة. ناشد أهالي أوروك الآلهة لإنقاذهم من هذه الملك الظالم، فاستجابوا الآلهة وخلقوا ندا ليكون خصما إلى جلجامش اسمه أنكيدو. عسى أن تنعم أوروك بالسلام.
Once upon a time there was a king called Gilgamesh. He was hated by all. He treated the people like dirt. He kissed the brides before their weddings, and he just treated them like absolute rubbish. So one day the people of Uruk decided to call out to the gods, and they said, "Please, let us find a match for Gilgamesh and stop this horror." So the mother goddess heard him and decided that she was going to make a match for him. So she took a lump of clay and some water and she rolled it into a ball and she threw it in the distance, and then this man started growing. He was so hairy. He had hair everywhere, hair and hair and hair and hair and hair. And But he was wild. He didn't know how to eat, how to drink, how to live, how to clean. He didn't know anything. And one day, a hunter decided to go hunting for deers. He walked into the forest and he saw this man. This man was drinking and eating with the deers. He was just walking around with the deers, being really strange and deery, I guess. And so he watched this man for 3 days and 3 nights. And on the 3rd day, this hunter decided to tell his father any advice on how to get rid of this strange wild man. His father said, "Get a beautiful woman to lure him away." And that's exactly what he did. And this woman was called Shamkat. And she took this man and named him Enkidu. She taught him how to drink, how to eat, how to clean, how to be human, and just be normal. One day, Enkidu was sitting on the doorstep of his house, and he was looking in the distance. And he saw this traveller holding a dish, but the traveller looked afraid. And Enkidu asked where this man was going, and he said, "I'm going to a wedding, and Gilgamesh will be there." And Enkidu knew who Gilgamesh was, and he said, "But why do you look afraid?" And the traveller said, "Because Enkidu kisses the brides, and he treats them like dirt, and I don't want that to happen." So the Enkidu knew this was wrong, so he decided to go along with the traveller. So he went, he got to the destination, and he looked over the door. He stood over the door, and he said, "No one's coming in here, not even Gilgamesh." So Gilgamesh came, and he said, "Get out of my way, you filthy man, get out, I want to see the bride." And Enkidu said, "No, you're not coming in here. I will fight you, I don't really care." So they fought, and they punched, and they slapped, and they kicked, and there was dirt and blood and rubble everywhere. And eventually, Gilgamesh won, and he looked into Enkidu's eyes and saw that he had a best friend, a brother, someone who he could have adventures for. And from then on, their adventures began.
Now with his new best friend, his equal, his brother, Gilgamesh thought of wonderful adventures. They went to Cedar Mountain. There they killed Humbaba. They killed the spirit set there by the gods at the dawn of time to protect the trees. And when the head of the Humbaba was off, they cut down the great cedars and they floated them down to Uruk.
As Gilgamesh and Enkidu came back from their adventure, they saw a river right next to the city of Uruk. They washed themselves. Gilgamesh put on his robe, a purple with silver linings, and put on his crown. They both opened the doors of Uruk, and they saw all the people dancing, singing, eating. They were all happy for Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Their names were with the gods. Gilgamesh and Enkidu, they celebrated with their people. Ishtar, the goddess, came up to Gilgamesh and said, "Gilgamesh, your people respect you, they love you, and they think that you are a man, you are a hero." Gilgamesh thought, should I marry her or should I not? If I marry her, I can become the husband of a goddess. If I don't, then she could get angry with my people. Gilgamesh took the side where he says no. He told her, "If I marry you, what will you give me? I pray for you, I sacrifice for you, but one thing I won't do is give you my heart." Gilgamesh went on about her 3 previous lovers, the shepherd, who she turned into a frog, the shepherd who she turned into a frog, and the last lover, we do not know where he is. Ishtar was angry, she was crying. She went up to her dad, Anu, and said, "Dad, please give me the bill of heaven. I want to take my revenge on Gilgamesh." Anu thought, the bill of heaven will just destroy the earth. It will shrivel up the rivers. It will dry up everything, and all the people will die. Ishtar said, "If you do not give me the bill of heaven, I will make the dead the living, and they will devour all humans." Anu thought, if I give her the Bill of Heaven, the world would be destroyed. But some people could survive. If I give her, if I let her devour all the people, everyone would die. So he gave her the Bill of Heaven. She went down to the walls of Uruk and shouted, Gilgamesh, please give me your love. Gilgamesh said, no, I will not. So she unleashed the Bill of Heaven and he stomped once. Twice. And the last time, many people fell. One of those people was Enkidu. Enkidu tried to climb back up until he finally reached the surface. Once he reached the surface, he told Gilgamesh, we have to defeat the Bill of Heaven. So Enkidu went up behind the Bill of Heaven, stomped on his tail. Gilgamesh jumped on his back and stabbed him in his chest. Enkidu was really happy. He cut the hindquarters of the beast and threw it at Ishtar. Gilgamesh cut open the chest of the Bill of Heaven, took out his heart, and sacrificed it to the sun god Shamash. After that, everyone celebrated, they were happy, and they went to sleep.
In the night, Enkidu had a dream. In that dream, the gods stood in assembly. And they all said, for the death of the Bull of Heaven, for the death of Humbaba, for the insult to Ishtar, someone must suffer. These two have gone too far. Someone must die. Let not Gilgamesh die, he's the king. Let Enkidu die. Enkidu woke the next morning in a terrible sweat. The first day he was sick, the second day he was sicker, and on the third day he died. Gilgamesh was inconsolable. He would not give the body up for burial until a worm crawled out of his friend's nose, and then a great funeral and great statues to celebrate his friends.
After Enkidu's death, Gilgamesh left the city of Uruk. He had realized all humans die. All humans die. He set out on a journey to find Utnapishtim the far away. He was a man who lived forever, and he wanted to find him to discover how to live forever as well. On his journey, days after days, one night he came across two furious lions. They were hungry. He was scared and asked the moon Dingir for help. He awoke the next day and was glad to be alive. He had killed the lions, skinned them, ate their flesh, and dressed only in their skins. Days passed, and his journey continued. Before he came across the Mashu mountains so big they blocked everything. The only way to get to the other side was through a tunnel. It was guarded by two scorpion people, a scorpion man and a scorpion woman. They asked what he wanted and who he was. He said he was Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk. They looked at him in disgust and said, "You're not Gilgamesh, you're filthy and you're dressed in lion skin." He told them about how Gilgamesh explained his story about how Enkidu died and how he wants to live forever. They let him through, however said that he had to get through the tunnel. He had to run through the tunnel for 12 hours in complete darkness before the sun would come around and go through that tunnel and burn him alive.
جلجامش كان تعيس جدا بسبب فقدانه لأعز صديق له انكيدو. جلجامش كان خائف لأنه لا يريد أن يموت، لذلك قرر أن يبحث عن أوتنابشتم، الإنسان الوحيد الذي يستطيع أن يساعده. جلجامش قرر أن يذهب إلى جبل الماشو بحثا عن الخلود. جلجامش رأى رجال العقرب، النصف العلوي إنسان والنصف الآخر على هيئة عقرب.
قلقامش قال للرجال العقرب أن يدعوه أن يدخل. رجال العقرب استغربوا وقالوا: من أنت ولماذا ندخلك؟ قلقامش قال: أنا قلقامش ملك أوروك. رجال العقرب استغربوا وقالوا: أنت قلقامش ملك أوروك؟ لماذا أنت بهذه الهيئة؟ قلقامش قال: صديقي العزيز أنكيدو لقد مات، وأنا لا أريد أن أموت مثله، لذلك قررت أن أبحث عن الخلود. رجال العقرب حزنوا عليه ودعوه أن يدخل. قلقامش فرح جدا وكان لديه أمل. سار قلقامش داخل نفق جبل الماشو. سار أيام والظلام يحيط به. استمر في السير والظلام يغلق المكان. ثم شعر بنسمة باردة لامست وجهه. استمر في السير إلى أن وصل إلى حديقة الآلهة، حيث ثمار الأشجار مليئة باللؤلؤ والزمرد والمرجان والكثير من الأحجار الكريمة. لكن قلقامش استمر في السير بحثا عن أوتنبشتم.
قلقامش مشى ومشى ومشى وراء امرأة تنظف الطاولة. سدوري رأت الرجل كبيرا في الحجم، فركضت إلى بيتها وقفلت الباب. بعد ثواني: افتحي الباب، افتحي الباب. سدوري خافت، فتحت الباب وقالت: من أنت وماذا تريد؟ رد قلقامش وقال: أنا قلقامش ملك أوروك. سدوري قالت: أنت ملك أوروك، ترتدي هذه الثياب ورائحتك. قلقامش قال: هل يمكنك أن تساعديني؟ ردت سدوري وقالت: كيف يمكنني أن أساعدك؟ أنت ملك. سدوري قال: أنا أبحث على الخلود، لقد رأيت صديقي أنكيدو يموت أمامي ولا أريد أن أصبح مثله. سدوري ردت له وقالت: لقد الآلهة صنعت الخلود لنفسها والموت للإنسان. أنت إنسان، لماذا تريد الخلود؟ لديك كل هذا المال، اذهب وأكل واستمتع مع عائلتك. قلقامش قال: لا يريد هذا الحياة، يريد الخلود، يريد يعيش للأبد. سدوري حزنت عليه وقالت: اذهب إلى أورشنابي.
Gilgamesh walked and walked until he reached a beautiful garden where rubies and sapphires were grown instead of normal true fruits. He saw a woman cleaning the table, and this woman was Siduri. Siduri saw this big henchman and quickly ran into her house, locked the doors and closed the windows, and hid for safety. Gilgamesh ran to the door and banged. "Open the door or I'll break it in." She said, "Why, who are you?" He said, "I'm Gilgamesh, king of Uruk." She laughed. "You are king?" "No, you're not. You don't even smell like one." "Open the door, I command you to, and I need your help." So she opened the door and let him in. She listened to him as she told her his story of how he doesn't want to die like his good friend Enkidu. He wants to live forever. She gently laughed and told him, "There is no such thing as immortality for humans. Don't look for something that's not there. Go live your life. You are a king. You have money. Kid, take the hand who's the kid's beside you. Love the woman who stands beside you. And live your life. There's no such thing as immortality for humans." Gilgamesh shook his head and disagreed. He said, "Give me the location of Utnapishtim, who holds the secret to immortality." Eventually, Sinduri gave him the location and told him, "If you want to go see Utnapishtim, you have to go near the forest, where the boatman will give you the location for Utnapishtim."
Gilgamesh began to scream for help. Urshnabin, Urshnabin, he repeated. Urshnabin came to him and said, "Why are you here?" Gilgamesh said, "I need to get across the poisonous lake." Urshnabin said, "Why? You have a good family and you have a good wife, and you're the king of the kingdom. Why do you need to get across the lake?" He said with a sigh, "My best friend Enkidu has passed away recently, and I fear that I might be next." Urshnabin started to feel sorry for him and said, "I know a way you can get across. First, you must cut down and skin 300 poles of wood." So without further notice, Gilgamesh began to do so. Next, he was told to push the boat with the poles into the water, letting go of each pole as it reached the surface of the water. Gilgamesh began to think as he used every last pole. The boat was only halfway through the water, and he had to get it across. He took off his lionskin shirt and used it as a sail. "I am the mast," he repeated, and slowly they drifted back to shore.
As soon as Gilgamesh reached the shore, he saw a cottage and ran towards it. He knocked on the door, and a man came up. "Who are you?" asked the man. "I am Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk. I suppose you are Utnapishtim?" The man replies, "Yes. Why, yes, I am. What do you want?" Gilgamesh replies, "I am here looking for immortality, and I command you to tell me your secret." So Utnapishtim says, "Best come in then." As soon as it came in, Utnapishtim asks Gilgamesh, "Are you sure you want to know how I got immortality?" Gilgamesh says, "Of course I do. You have to tell me. Otherwise..." Utnapishtim interrupted him. "Okay, I'll tell you my story. So, one day, I was in my reed cottage when I heard a voice, a whispering voice, from the wall. It said, 'Oh, reed wall, there's going to be a big flood. You'd better abandon this house now. Forget about your property. Forget about everything you have. Save your life. Build a boat and fill it with animals, birds, fish, and the seed of every living thing.' The seed of every living thing. So I asked the voice, 'What should I tell my people?' The voice replies, 'Tell them that Ea and Enlil are now disagreeing. And because you particularly respect Ea, you have to leave Enlil's land before all your people suffer.' So that's what I did. As soon as the boat was in the river, I climbed aboard with all the animals, my family, of course, the animals, the birds, the fish, and the seed of every living thing. So I stayed in the boat for the first night, which was rather calm. But as soon as the sun arose, I looked out of the boat and saw something terrifying in the horizon. It was a big dark cloud coming our way. I closed the hatch and stayed in the boat. It rained for 7 days and 7 nights non-stop. When the rain stopped, I looked out of the boat to see the saddest thing I've ever seen. I was surrounded by water, with floating dead bodies everywhere. I cried and cried and cried. But then, as soon as I looked back into the water, I saw that the boat was stuck on Mount Nimush. So I sent out 3 birds. The first 2 came back because, well, they didn't find anything anywhere to perch on. But the third one, the raven, found a tree to perch on and nibbled on this berry. So as soon as the water lowered, I came onto the dry land and burnt 14 jars of incense as a sacrifice to the gods. When the smell reached the gods, they immediately appeared around me in a semicircle. Because I saved all humanity and all life, I was granted the eternal life. So, Gilgamesh, I had to stay awake to listen to that voice. Can you?
Of course I can. I am a king. He sat down, and instantly Lady Utnapishtim was approaching him to wake him up. Utnapishtim said, No, don't. For every day he sleeps, you make a loaf of bread. He smelled the smell of breakfast. I only shut my eyes just for a couple of seconds. He glanced at the room. He saw 7 breads. For the 7 days he slept. One freshly out of the oven. It smelled like heaven in a loaf. The second one, edible but fresh. The third one, it was very stale and very hard. The fourth one had little bits of fungi. The fifth one, it was all covered in white fungi. The sixth one, it was covered in green fungi. The seventh one, it was very soggy. It looked like it's been underwater for a year. So Gilgamesh said, "Well, why have you made 7 breads? One very, very moldy and inedible, and one fresh out of the oven." Lady Enheduanna said, "I made 7 loaves of bread for every day you slept." Gilgamesh said, "Well, I only shut my eyes for 7 seconds. How quick can you make loaves of bread?" Enheduanna said, "You have slept for 7 days, 7 nights, and you haven't woke up. So, you cannot be a god if you can't do this little thing." Gilgamesh knew his fate. He was approaching the door, and he glanced back, seeing Lady Enheduanna and Enheduanna whispering. Before he can open the door, Lady Enheduanna shouted, "There's only one thing you can do. There's a plant of youth that makes you be young again. It's buried deep under the water. So if you get it, plant it and give it to all your people and eat it yourself, you would shed your old skin and you would be young again." Gilgamesh jumped up and said, "Yay, yay, yay!" He straight away went to the boat and told Anishinaabe, "Go, go, go! We need to get my plant!" He hopped onto the boat. He was a master of the sail. In a flash, they went to the shore. Gilgamesh tied some string to his foot, tied it to some rocks so he would sink down to the bottom. He took his knife with him so he can rip out the plant. He finally saw a glowing plant. He took it, he grabbed it, he cut it. He cut the string and went up to shore. He thought he was all dirty, so he took off his clothes, folded it up and put the plant on top. And then Gilgamesh dived in and had a swim, just like a little bath. And a little snake came and ate the plant, shedded its old skin, and was a young snake again. It slithered away, and Gilgamesh, he went out. He dried himself, and he saw this little tail of a snake go through the bush, and he saw there was no plant at all. "Where's my plant? Where's my plant?" he kept on thinking. He saw what happened. There was the old skin of the snake. He decided his fate, put his head in his hands and said, "Why did I think I could be immortal? Why did I think I can do whatever humans can't do?"
بعد أن حصل جلجامش عشبة الخلود قرر أن يذهب إلى مدينة أوروك. في الطريق رأى جلجامش بركة ماء فنزل إليها تاركا النبتة عند الضفة. جاءت حية وأكلتها. فبينما هي راجعة إلى بيتها نزعت على جلد قديم وحصلت جلد جديد. خرج جلجامش من بركة الماء ولبس ملابسه ولم يجد النبتة. بحث في كل مكان ولم يجد النبتة. جلس قلقامش عند الضفة وقد انهار تماما، فقد الأمل في الخلود. قلقامش قرر أن يعود إلى مدينة أوروك.
Behold the tablet box of copper. Release the clasps of bronze. Replace the tablets of lapis lazuli. You've heard the tale of Gilgamesh, all that he endured.